This is Grief and Grit, from heartache to high fives with a dash of sass. The podcast that turns the tables on traditional grief talks with a fresh, sassy spin. Listen in for candid conversations about the messy, awkward, and downright hilarious aspects of dealing with loss. Because sometimes the best way to cope is with a little laughter and a lot of grit.
Hi, Simony.
Hi, Greer. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you. So you survived Disney.
We did. We went with my sister and her family, and they're in Albany, New York. So there were 3 adults, 4 kids, 1 birthday, and we did well. Oh, and a boot. I had my boot on. I rented a scooter. So we had the double stroller and the scooter. So only one kid had to walk at a time. So that actually worked out pretty good.
Yeah, and once you're in those scooters and that, you can miss the lines, right? You go to the
Yeah, well, so we didn't do it for my foot, but so Disney has something it's called a DAS pass. I think it's Disabilities Access Services or something like that.
right.
So, because there is ADHD and like some sensory stuff with Jack, and my nephew also has ADHD. Standing in lines is really, really,
Yeah.
really, really, really hard. So we were actually able to get DAS passes for the 2 of them. Disney's really accommodating and
wow. That's
they want to
good.
create a really positive experience. And
Yeah.
they also give like a whole list of what rides might be too loud or too fast and all of these things. So yes, we
Fabulous.
were
So
able
yeah,
to
that
use
helps.
that.
That
So
helps.
yeah, it was great. It was
Well,
great. It
good
was a
to
good
see you.
experience. Yeah, you
Good to see
too.
you.
You
Yeah,
too. Good to
nothing
be
so
home in my own bed
I
again.
know, I know. So, welcome everybody out there, and as usual, get your coffee, your tea, and our guest today is drinking a cup of coffee that you made, Greer, and it's really making him so happy right
It's unbelievable.
now.
I'll be back tomorrow morning.
You're welcome
Anytime.
anytime. So even though it's not Greer's coffee, grab your tea, get comfortable, and let's dive in. So I am so pleased to welcome our guests here today. Um, I'm not pleased for the circumstances that has brought us here today, but I have known, this is Debbie and Barry, and I have known Debbie and Barry for a very, very long time. Our sons were in preschool together, who are now 26 years old. So we go back a long time. And they they've had a tragedy in their lives, which they're going to share with us today. And they have shown incredible resilience. They lost their daughter Ashira very suddenly. And as I said to them before going on air, that their resilience and their way that they have handled this and inspiring, they're an inspiration. And, we're just so lucky to have them here today. And thank you for being here and for being vulnerable enough to share your story and let us all into who Ashira was and, tell us your
Thank you for
story.
having us.
Of course. So, I think we'll start off with who was Ashira? You want to share with us?
Okay, I'll start. Ashira was, the first word that comes to mind is strong. Very strong-willed from a very early age. She was completely walking on her own at 9 months. Her determination was apparent from very early. If there was something she wanted to achieve or conquer, she was going to do it.
I have a specific memory when you talk about walking at a young age. Well before she was walking, I guess she was able to sit up, and I wanted to hold her hand. She was sitting up, on the floor, and I kind of reached out and held her hands. I don't know if I was just playing, and she pulled, and by pulling, she kind of popped up, and she had this look on her face, and she looked around and said, "Hey, I like the view from up here."
Oh,
And from that point on, she was always trying to stand. And then soon after
wow.
was walking. And she would, we were trying to put barriers around so she couldn't get upstairs, get to dangerous areas. No matter what it was, pillows, a chair, she pushed it out of the way to get to where she wanted to go.
And that pretty much kind of sums up that aspect of her personality. Um, she was very outgoing from an early age. I would take her to the grocery store. She'd sit in the cart and she'd go, hi, hi,
Oh,
hi, to anybody who came by. So I'd say strong-willed, determined, outgoing, friendly. She was pretty happy. She was a very chubby baby and always had this giant grin on her face. Um, but she was going to have her way,
yes.
which that as people they get older, that's like great that they're so strong, but it's not always easy when you're the
Right,
parent.
right.
Yes.
And I guess, the biggest thing is the things that we learned once she went into the hospital about her. Well, first I want to say also, I feel like she didn't get so caught up in girl drama.
Mm,
She was pretty immune to all of that. She was always very confident. And even if, especially those middle school years where girls' feelings are very easily hurt if they're left out, if she wasn't invited to something, she didn't care. She really was unusual in that sense. We knew she had a lot of friends, a lot of people who considered her a best friend. But it wasn't until she was in the hospital in Miami and kids started, drove 8 hours from FSU from Tallahassee and flew in from Atlanta and Texas. And many of them we'd never met before. People from her sorority, people she worked with. She worked part-time at a bar in Tally. And, they were all telling us she was my best friend. She changed my life. She was like a sister to me. So we really learned a lot about her in that process.
When I got to the hospital a couple days after Debbie did, I was overwhelmed. There were what, maybe 50
mm.
kids from
I don't know,
Wow.
probably not
Florida
that.
there.
I don't think it was that many. Maybe, I don't
But
know.
a lot.
A
I mean,
lot,
yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, it blew us away. And we started hearing about, I mean, we knew she was in a sorority. I'd met her roommates when I'd helped move her in, but just all these kids talking about no matter where they went with Ashira, she knew people were coming up to her. We knew her Atlanta friends, and there were a few of them that came down to Florida as well, down to Miami when she was in
About
the
5 of
hospital.
them. They're from Atlanta.
Yeah.
So she built quite a big village for herself. That's amazing. At such a young age.
And was obviously
Yeah.
very humble about it.
Yeah,
Very humble
yeah,
that
we had no idea.
yeah, yeah. So,
And that kind of gets to something else about her is uh, in terms of her being strong-willed, she was, wanted to be very independent from us. I think she was 14 the first time she said, I think you can just get me an apartment and I can take care of myself. It was almost true,
right,
except for, the money.
right, right.
Oh, that. Yeah, she's
Right.
always very independent.
So what that meant was sometimes she kind of blocked us as her parents from getting too deeply involved.
Right.
She, never shared, much less who she might be dating, even who her friends were dating, things like that. And
Right.
even when she was in school and she'd say, Oh, I'm going to a friend's house. That's, oh, good. Which friend? She'd say, You don't know them.
Okay. Like not important for you to
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Stay out of my business.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were sort of opened up to this whole Ashira world after she passed on.
Yeah.
That that I'm sure brought you comfort and has been a source of comfort knowing who she was and, the influence that she had on so many people.
Yeah, I mean, we had a sense within Atlanta,
Of course.
but she created her own life at FSU that we really didn't know anything about.
Right.
So.
Right. Amazing.
Yeah, I mean those friends, all of her friends, both the Atlanta friends, but the Florida friends, who sort of was a surprise to us. That's been, for me, I don't know about you, for me, that has been the greatest source of comfort for me.
Yes.
At the outset, and then as time has gone on. So one thing on social media, so I was Facebook, Instagram, but then once I found out that her friends posted on Instagram a lot, they posted pictures of her, videos of her, testimonials to her, especially when she first passed away. So I kind of quickly got up to speed on Instagram.
Yes.
Although I felt a little creepy following all these
And
19
TikTok.
and 20-year-old
Everybody's
girls.
on TikTok now too.
But so she died on December 11th. So for the first year, every month on the 11th, a lot of her friends would post 30 days, 3 months, 6 months,
Wow.
and it was very moving. And even now, I
Yes.
mean, last night I was looking at some photos, and especially because I do screenshots of the Instagram photos because I don't know how to save them myself.
No,
Um,
that Barry.
and feeling that there's somebody with me that misses her like we do, that loves her like we do. Some of them, especially her roommates, I mean, they were used to getting up every morning with her and going out every night with her.
Sure.
I think, especially at the outset, they miss her worse than we do. It was a
Because she was
bigger
a
impact.
constant in their lives every
Right.
single day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And now that you've gone through the first year without her, what are some of and it's a known fact that the first year is always the hardest because it's the first of everything. It's a birthday, it's an anniversary, it's, all those things. What was for you the hardest what was the hardest for you in the first year? Some of the things that you found.
That's a good question. I will tell you what the hardest thing for me was. What really, really, really hit me. She went into the hospital the morning of December 8th.
Mhm.
So December 7th of the 2024, I realized that a year before had been the last time she was truly alive. Because once she went in the hospital, she was unconscious.
Right.
And that was probably the most difficult day in the whole year.
Wow, that's yeah, I've never thought of that. We tend to think, and like I just said, of birthdays and anniversaries, but that's so true, Debbie.
Like I was thinking a year ago today, she was happy, she was living her life, she was getting ready to go to this music festival, she was with her friends, and
She went to a Hanukkah party and sang, teaching her friends some of the songs and singing
yeah,
the
and then
brachas, which we have some short videos of her at that Hanukkah party
yeah, her friend
Right.
sent it.
singing. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So that really was incredibly devastating that day.
Yeah. Did you feel that same? Was that the same for you, Barry?
No, um, it was really, again, you think about a year ago today, blah, blah, blah. For me, it was more once we hit December 8th, 9th, 10th, thinking back, okay, a year ago today, I was in the hospital. We were in the hospital.
Mm.
Year ago today, we got the news that, she was officially brain dead. And
Right.
those kind of memories and um,
Those
those
days
are really
were,
painful.
I mean, every one of those days I was doing the same thing mentally. I was like, okay, today I arrived in the hospital and I still had hope. And then this day we didn't have hope anymore. Those
Right.
kind of things.
Yeah.
Definitely were very present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some other really difficult times in that first year. Anything that there was a clear missing of Ashira,
Correct. Yes.
like that first Passover Seder during the four questions. I had to leave the table.
Yeah.
Um, and then more recently, we went to our first wedding just last week,
That's hard.
and I didn't think about it beforehand.
That's hard.
But as you know, we kind of went from where the groom, like just a bunch of stuff with the men, the groom, and the signing of the ketubah and all that, and then sort of the men moved to where the groom meets the bride and lifts the veil off her face. I just, it hit me. Here's something I'll never experience with her.
That's hard.
It was terrible.
I do want to say, though, you talk about the birthday. So, she passed away in December and her birthday was January 16th. So it was pretty soon. And my brother flew in and we met four of her Atlanta friends at the cemetery. And we brought happy birthday sign and we brought espresso martinis and glazed donuts from Krispy Kreme.
I love that so much.
And it was freezing and windy, but we actually all toasted her, poured a little espresso martini on the grave, and we made it as joyous as we could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I've done that for Jared, my husband, for the kids because they're excited. It's daddy's birthday. It's like, okay, here we go. But we think of the happy memories, and it's obviously very bittersweet, but I understand that in that way.
Mhm.
Yes.
It does.
Yes.
It brings some kind of comfort.
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
You're still celebrating the person and you still, which brings me to the next question. What are some of the things that you've done to honor Ashira and to honor her memory? Are there new things that you've done? Have you carried on doing old traditions, created new traditions? Anything that you...
the biggest thing is the nonprofit that
Yes.
I'm starting.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so Ashira means I will sing. And the nonprofit is called Nashira, which means we will sing, which is something Barry came up with.
Well, discovered. I didn't
He
create
just discovered the word
I love
Nashira in
that.
some Tehillim that he was saying, some Psalms. And that became a little bit of a rallying cry that we're taking her joy. And so really what we're trying to do with the organization is I pulled together different quotes from her friends, from the funeral, from tributes they wrote to her on social media, letters people sent us, and they had a vigil at FSU for her and kind of highlighted the qualities and looked at that. And that became sort of our mission statement.
It's beautiful.
So we are trying to continue her influence as kind of a best friend and mentor to younger girls and leading with joy and bring that into the adolescent and teenage girl space.
I love that.
So that's the biggest thing that we're doing. We brought a speaker in for her Yort site that spoke about being a light. Do you have anything you want to add? My brother wrote a song. I don't know if you've heard it. Song for Ashira, which is really beautiful.
Oh, that's
Um,
beautiful.
Yeah, and other things like her friends did. At about a month after her death, the bar that she worked at, they kind of had a fundraiser,
That's
and it was beautiful. They sent us a video. They had balloons where everybody wrote on the balloons, and they released the balloons.
Put a
And
plaque on her well where she was serving for in her memory. There's like a brass plaque on her well, and they created, rubber "I will sing" wristbands.
How beautiful.
So
Beautiful.
actually, I had my friend Amy Laff, who's Throwing Stars Jewelry, make me a permanent bracelet
Oh, that's
that says
beautiful.
Ashira, I will sing, which is what was on the rubber wristbands.
That's beautiful.
And for Father's Day, Debbie gave me a little bracelet here, and it's got included in there a couple of silver pieces, one with
Yeah.
Matan's name on it, our son, and Ashira.
Oh,
That's beautiful.
I love it.
beautiful.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
The other thing I do want to say, as far as honoring her, is her grave marker.
Mhm.
We really put a lot of thought
Exquisite.
into it
It's exquisite.
and really wanted it to, reflect who she was and
And
the
message.
message that we want to share. So on the back, so her friends, when she went into the hospital, created this huge banner. I think they painted a sheet that says, "Tell your friends you love them," and they hung it from a second story balcony in Tallahassee. So on the back of the stone, we put "Tell your friends you love them," and
It's
we have
beautiful.
like this flame part of the stone, and on the back of that, we put "We will sing." So really, we're just trying to make that be the message that
Yes.
comes out of this.
Hmm. And some other little things. So a close friend of ours, when she came to pay a Shiva call, she said, "Can I paint her portrait?"
Oh,
We
wow.
said yes. And this friend, she's really never been a painter before, and that's all she does pretty much is paint portraits of people who have passed for loved
Oh,
ones.
Okay.
And it came out, it just blew us away. It captures her like nothing else we've ever seen. So
beautiful.
we have it up in our living room.
Yes.
And I almost every day I go by there and say goodnight to her and rub her cheek, which she
And I
would never
can't
let
look
me
at
do.
it. I have the opposite reaction. I can't look at it. I avoid it.
Oh, right. Yeah. So I was going to ask you, is your grieving, has it been different for both of you? Like or pretty much the same?
A lot of things I
Just,
think are the same in terms of the ways we kind of recall her, remember her.
The way we've chosen to grieve.
okay.
I
Yeah.
think we've chosen the same path, if that makes sense.
And I think that's
Yes.
so important.
Yeah.
I think that's, because so often you hear of people who they grieve so differently that somehow they just can't come together in their grief journey. They have totally separate and apart grief journeys.
Yeah.
Was that like a conscious decision that you both made, or just okay?
Oh,
No.
no, for me, it was conscious.
Okay.
To do the same things as me.
No, but the way I chose to grieve.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
No,
Yeah, but
not
the fact
to
that they're
be.
the
But
same.
No.
you didn't both
Right.
sit down and say, we're going to grieve this way. Like it's your
No.
natural who you are and
No, I think it's more who Ashira was.
right.
I mean, partly. I'm going to say she went into the hospital Friday morning. Barry had COVID. So I
Oh,
flew down by
Okay.
myself,
Okay.
and he didn't get to the hospital until Sunday. So 2 days, Wednesday night, I went to Rose Lubin's memorial service.
The Wednesday night before she went in the hospital.
Wow.
So literally 2 days before,
Right.
I went to Rose Lubin's memorial service, and Rose and Ashira were friends in like first grade, second grade.
Okay.
And so that really had a profound influence on me going into this situation. The way her family handled that, the way I don't know if you guys were at the memorial service, the way that went, and the fact that they had been friends, and then a lot of Ashira's peers and their mothers were there, and our son was also a lone soldier. So there were a lot of connections there. And I know I mentioned this in our ACT group, but literally Sunday morning, I woke up and made the conscious decision that I wasn't going to think about the things we were losing and just think about the things that we had.
Mm.
Literally made that decision, and I really tried to stick to that.
Mhm.
Right.
And Barry arrived, I guess, Sunday morning. And we never really weren't on the same page. I
Yeah,
think.
I was gonna say, I think we never talked about let's be on the same page. In fact, I
Sure.
think we did just the opposite, and especially with our son, we said everybody's going to do it differently.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, you do you, I do me, mom
Right.
does mom, whatever. But I think just sort of naturally, Debbie and I we've always kind of had similar personalities and similar values and,
Sure.
and interests and so forth. So a lot of things we just happen to do the same. That same Sunday morning, I remember I was on the plane, and at that point we knew she probably wasn't going to make it, and actually started to take notes about what I would say in terms of a eulogy.
Yeah, but that's you 100%.
Yeah. Right.
Planning a eulogy
Right.
months in advance.
Oh, actually, no, that's not the point I was to make. At the same time, Sunday morning, I remember I started to think, nothing to do with the eulogy. I was just starting to think in terms of what I would miss, what we would be robbed of.
Right.
A wedding, college graduation,
Right.
her kids.
Yeah.
And it took about 15 seconds to realize that was just a very dark hole.
Mhm.
Nothing good would come of that, of me kind of going there mentally. And so I just kind of stopped it.
Amazing.
So
Which is where I was Saturday when my sister arrived Saturday afternoon, and I was like sobbing, I'm never gonna go to her wedding and blah blah blah. And yeah, I mean, Sunday came to the same decision. That was not what I was gonna
Mhm.
think about.
That's
And
amazing. Incredible. That's
The
honestly
strength and
incredible.
resilience
Yeah.
that
But-
takes. Yeah.
But also, I'd say some areas we've diverged, not conflicted, just maybe a little conflict. Diverged. I'm a much more social person
Okay.
than Debbie. I like people.
I don't dislike people.
Joking.
It's okay. There's no judging here on Grief and Grit ever.
So
But you
things
found
like-
the strength in having people around. You wanted people around.
yeah, and I'm
You're
just that way
extroverted.
naturally.
Yes.
He insisted that we have Shiva until 10 o'clock every night,
That's
for
hard.
instance.
That's
and
hard.
you just wanted to go to bed.
And I was just
You're depleted already.
I was depleted.
And then on
Yeah.
top of having people,
But he thrives off of it, and I
Right.
get depleted.
yes,
Mhm.
the introvert.
That's our
and the
biggest
extrovert. Yes.
biggest difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But clearly you figured it out because
Well, still
you
we'll
are who you
go
are.
to some social events now, and I'll say, okay, my battery's empty. Like
Right.
I have to leave.
Yeah,
I definitely have less of a social battery now
of course.
than I did.
For
So
sure.
yeah.
The grief brain takes,
Mhm.
it takes a lot out of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you found that your community friends, have they risen to the occasion? Because the grief journey brings a lot of people show you who they are.
Exactly.
People
Clarity.
say things that they don't follow through with. I mean, there's a lot of that, and I'm learning from, is it Mel Robbins? Let them
Oh,
be,
Mel
let
Robbins.
them. But have you found that you've been maybe disappointed, or on the other hand, shocked at how the support has been?
Or who the support has come from.
Yeah, I definitely think there's some surprises. I mean, some people you kind of know their personalities, and even if they're well-meaning or whatever, I think, one of the things people donated money, for Shiva meals. They got $11,000 for Shiva meals for us,
Wow.
which was crazy. So there was leftover money, which we donated to a lot of organizations. So things like that were, and it's true, it's not necessarily the people you're closest to who rise to the occasion and who are there
Yeah.
for you.
It's the
And I
it's the
think
people who you
it's-
least expected.
Yeah, sometimes it is. And so I think that's really interesting. I think to some extent, there are people who you think, I thought you were my friend, but you haven't checked in on me in a year and I lost my daughter. Or,
Yeah.
there are things like that.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
Yeah.
I know who you are.
Correct.
And
That's where the
um,
let them comes in. It's like,
yeah,
And it's
yes.
yeah, it changes
Yeah.
relationships.
Right.
It changes.
Yes.
It's unfortunate, but the energy that it takes to harbor the frustration or those negative, it's a lot.
yeah. And you don't have, I mean, you have
You don't have
to
the capacity.
decide on where your energy goes
Exactly.
and what's important. I mean, do you have different comments than I do? You may.
No, generally speaking, I think we were very pleased and felt very supported by friends, family, Ashira's friends, and again, people we didn't know. Yeah, of course, there's always people that stick their foot in their mouth because they're just either
yeah.
A, they're just insensitive,
Yeah.
or B, they just don't know but they feel like they need to say something.
Uh-huh.
Did have a lot of support, especially during Shiva, for which we were very grateful. I mean, there were
Yeah.
people, not only did the community provide, and when I say community, I don't necessarily mean our shul community. I
No,
mean
you
the
mean
larger
the
Jewish community and our friends
right.
and extended friends, but people were assigned for every meal. They signed
Right.
up to be there, to be in charge and make sure, we were
Yeah.
taken care of. And I know not everybody gets that much support, so we were very grateful for that. And even, the unveiling, um, we had a lot of people come.
Mhm.
We had a lot of people show up for the speaker for her yard site. And I think all of that is more of a testament to Ashira than anything else.
I was very pleased with other people who had lost kids
Right.
that came forward
Yes.
and said, and they were perfect because they didn't say, "Oh, let me tell you how to do this." But I lost a kid, blah blah blah. Let me know if and when you want to talk.
Absolutely.
And we've
Absolutely.
tried to pay that forward, really.
Yeah.
We try to reach out to other people.
Yeah.
We're in a Jewish parents bereavement group, which has been really nice, and we all support each other within the group.
Yeah. I think that's important. And I was going to say, what have you found? Some of the things that you have found that you found the most supportive, resources that you have for maybe some of our listeners who are going through the same thing.
That's one of the biggest ones. Other people who have been through are going through it.
Right.
There's somebody that I was in elementary school with at Hebrew Academy. I hadn't seen her since we graduated. She doesn't live in Atlanta. Somehow I found her on Facebook even before this happened, and coincidentally, she lost her daughter at the age of, I think, 23 or 24, not quite a year before Shira died.
Wow.
And we were in touch a lot. And I depend on her pretty heavily
Yeah.
for emotional support.
Yeah.
They just had their 2-year anniversary yesterday.
Oh,
No,
wow.
today.
wow.
Today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so that's been a big support for us. And actually, like there was another friend I went through elementary and high school with. They lost their son in his 20s suddenly 6 months ago. I didn't know about it. He reached out to me, and then we've gotten together with them. And it even though it was, I think it was meant to be, they were looking for somebody to help show them the way. We really helped each other.
Oh,
Yeah.
And
okay.
it helped us to kind of talk about our process to them.
I don't think you can underestimate the comfort of being with people like you have each other, right? Who are in the same situation as you,
Yeah.
it just takes away a level of, like you say, energy, like the social interaction energy. It takes away that effort
Yes.
to interact with people who are somewhat on a different planet than you are at the moment.
Correct.
And
And I think it allows you to feel less isolated, because
Bingo.
grief is so isolating, as we've spoken about. You know, it helps to feel that you're not alone in it. There are other people, you know, going through
Yeah.
it.
I do want to say something that's a little off topic,
Mm.
but the fact that Ashira went to a music festival December 7th, 2 months after October 7th, after Nova,
Yeah.
that also put things in perspective. It really is connected in my brain that all these young Jewish kids went to a music festival and got killed. And then 2 months later, she went to a music festival and died a month after Rose Lubin got killed. It was all a continuum. And that also, I think, made me feel just, I'm not the only Jewish parent who's lost, a child. And our son, I don't know if you know, but our son was living in Ofakim on October 7th. Hamas was about a quarter of a mile from his apartment. And he had actually told us earlier in the week that there was going to be a music festival near his apartment. And I was like, oh, you should go. And he said, nah, I don't think I'm going to go. Thank God. Because if I had told him to go and he had gone.
Thank God.
So there was, a lot going on there. Thank God he escaped safely from Ofakim because he had bought a car literally 2 days before October 7th. So this was all a continuum of events, very connected mentally for me. And it did put things into a different kind of perspective in that we weren't alone, but at the same time, it was very like, because did this happen because he survived? Like there was a lot of weirdness
Finding meaning and
around all of this. So in a way, and talking about comfort and the way you look at this, and one thing that I did feel is that maybe she needed to be there with these other people her age who died at Nova because of her joy and her friendship. And,
Her
it could be a
light.
total her light, could be a total rationalization way to look at this, but I think whatever gets you through the night, right?
that's
Correct.
grief. I mean, it's what we need to know, that they're okay wherever they are now. And so that we can also keep waking up each morning and going through our daily routines. I mean, that's grief. It's the love and the narrative we almost create to support that. And I mean, it's a beautiful narrative. And I mean, I see it.
It makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
It
Makes
really, really
complete sense.
does. There's
Especially because it was a music festival
Correct.
literally 2 months later in Miami.
And actually, I think a few days before that, Matan, he was in Israel at the time. He had some time off. He was serving in the reserves. Uh, he and a friend were somewhere, and it was like, bunch of people somewhere, and it was a like a reunion
A Nova
dance party,
survivor.
Nova survivors.
Wow.
Yeah, and he sent me some pictures, and he told me some
Stories.
amazing stories that he had heard from one of the survivors.
Yeah.
So it's
the connections are strong.
Yeah.
yeah, very much so. And I remember on Sheminat Seret this year, um, during what's it called? The prayer for the dead.
Yes,
Yes,
Yizkor, thank you. During Yizkor, actually, what our rabbi did was, for the first anniversary of October 7th, he handed out lists of the names of everybody that had been killed.
Wow.
since October 7th, like soldiers,
right,
Nova.
right.
And I remember thinking the same thing that you did, Debbie. I was imagining that Ashira was dancing with, in heaven with the Nova survivors.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And I don't think we mentioned that part of who she was she was a very serious and competitive dancer.
I know that.
From
She was incredible.
what age? Eight,
Uh,
eight,
I mean,
10?
she was she started competing at 10
Okay.
or 9 or 10. Yeah, so she danced. And so actually, two of the charities that we decided to support in her memory that we announced at the funeral were Tribe of Nova, and their tagline was "We will dance again." And actually, someone gave this to Sylvia Miller, and she gave it to me. It's a dog tag, but it's a Nova Festival one, and it says "We will dance again" on it.
It's beautiful.
And the other one was Friendship Circle, because their tag, which she was involved with, but also because their whole mission is love your neighbor as yourself,
Yes.
and the whole concept of friendship, which is what her superpower was, if you want to look at it that way. So dance and her friends, one of the things that's given us the most joy, I think, is the videos her friends post of her doing like her calling, even though she was a beautiful dancer, was as a comedic dancer.
Right.
And she,
That's
as
awesome.
beautiful as she was, she did not care how ridiculous she looked. She was so unselfconscious. So the videos her friends have shared of her doing ridiculous dances and stuff have actually been very, it just shows the joy that she had, which is very
Correct.
comforting.
Absolutely.
Especially, we all know there's been like an epidemic of suicides in our community.
Yes.
And so knowing that she was so happy in her life in Tallahassee and how much joy she had and that she brought other people is very comforting, I will say.
Well, that's beautiful.
So beautiful.
Well, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for letting us get a glimpse of who Ashira was, and
Our pleasure.
for you sharing your story today. I know we know it's not easy, and it takes a lot of courage to do. And I know that you just want people to keep saying her name, remembering her, sharing her stories, and I know that they will, because her light was so bright, and may it shine brightly always.
Thank you.
And they should tell their friends that they love them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's a beautiful legacy that Ashira has left on so many, and that y'all are continuing to share. So
Thank
So
you,
thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for doing your podcast. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, we will be on next time with Grief and Grit. You can find us on social media at Grief and Grit Podcast. So that's Facebook, Instagram. We're on Substack and Spotify.
We're
Apple,
everywhere.
exactly. And you can also, we're still working on TikTok, but that's coming soon. Huge learning curve for me, admittedly.
And definitely me.
So
So everybody, thank you for listening today, and enjoy the rest of the week. And we'll speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. If you love what you heard, please follow Grief and Grit and share our podcast with your friends and family.